Hi. I'll wait for people to find this. Hopefully we don't have issues again. I reset my router. I tried to do the thing I've done before of, like, keeping it on hotspot until I got the router reset, and it still dropped the stream for some reason. It was not having that today. So, yeah. Ugh. Well. I don't even remember. I think I was in the middle of a page. Well, try to find where the heck I was while I wait for y'all. Um, I shared the link to the second stream in the Discord. I don't know why I'm saying that here, because obviously if you're here, you found your way to the stream, but anyway. Okay, hi Henry. You found it. The stream exists. Someone is here. Sorry about that. Hopefully we're good for the rest of the stream. Tina was here, and I don't know if Nina is coming back, because I know she had to leave at some point today anyway. But I just want to wait, like, another minute before starting up again. And I was just thinking that we do not know who the him, in quotes, is. That, actually, I don't know when this started lagging, so hopefully you heard the part that's like, he called, and it's like, Xie Qingcheng didn't ask who he was, and they both know who he is, and I'm like, who the heck is this person? And of course, Meat Bun is like, no, we're going right past that into something else. So now, I don't know when we're gonna find out. You kept manically reloading my channel. Yeah. Okay, well, looks like one other person is here. So I'm just gonna, I guess I'm just gonna start from the top of page 212. And tell me if, like, it seems like we're missing anything. Oh, I'm sorry. This mic was away from my face this whole time. Jeez. My bad. Okay, now that I'm reading, I have the mic. You can actually hear me. It doesn't sound like I'm in a wind tunnel or something. Xie Qingcheng didn't bother acknowledging her, but Xie Shui knew that her brother's silence meant, if you have something to say, spit it the fuck out. Thus, she cautiously said, earlier when I was resting, he called and asked what happened. Xie Qingcheng didn't ask who he was, as though both siblings had tacitly agreed to refer to him as such. What did you say to him? Xie Qingcheng asked. What else could I say? I just said everything was fine. I didn't talk to him very much. Xie Shui paused for a moment. Ge, are you feeling better now? Do you think he would make me feel better? Out of options, Xie Shui could only nudge closer and stick her head out from the back seat. She pawed at the edge of the passenger seat like a kitten, as though trying to catch her brother's attention with sheer cuteness. Then look at me. Look at how I'm perfectly fine. Doesn't it make you feel better? In the future, don't go to such dangerous places by yourself, said Xie Qingcheng. His tone had finally softened slightly. All right, I'll be careful. Xie Shui hastily replied as the car sped off in a swirl of dust. You know, I feel like it wouldn't have been so dangerous if it had been managed properly. by people who weren't terrible, but you know. Yeah. The next day, news about the Chung Kong Psychiatric Hospital was plastered on the front pages of the newspapers. The article drew on the statements that all the people who had been forced onto the rooftop had given to the police. It described in detail how this case of murder and arson, prompted by the flare-up of Jiang Lanpei's illness, was actually the story of a woman who lived a life worse than death during her nearly 20 years of imprisonment. But unfortunately, Liang Jicheng was already dead. Liang Zhongkang had passed away before his younger brother, and the other higher-ups who might have known about the details of the case were deceased as well, several of them having died in this very inferno. It was as though the fire of vengeance lit by Jiang Lanpei had taken on a life of its own and swallowed up everyone who had ever been involved in this crime. Just as He Yu predicted, the papers chose Jiang Lanpei's ugliest photo to print onto their pages. Even so, she still looked very stunning in it. The now dead woman gazed directly out of the newsprint, her expression showing a hint of resolve, yet one could also see a trace of bewilderment. Beneath her photo, the reporter wrote, "There is a possibility that Jiang Lanpei is not her real name, as such information was processed before digital record-keeping began. The police are currently conducting genetic testing on Miss Jiang's remains, but due to the length of time that has elapsed, results may be inconclusive. If members of the general public have any leads, please contact the relevant department at the number below." Inside his villa, He Yu folded the newspaper shut. Recently, the topic of psychiatric hospitals and the mentally ill had become the object of public scrutiny. From greasy uncles to naive little girls, everyone discussed it with an air of unflappable logic, as though they were all experts in sociology or medicine. In most people's eyes, they had become accustomed to labeling the mentally ill as them, with their natural antithesis being us. It was impossible for them to become us, no matter how pitiful they were. But how did mental illnesses arise then? He Yu remembered something Xie Qingcheng had once said to him. The vast majority of mental illnesses are normal people's responses to abnormal circumstances. Obsessive-compulsive disorder, major depressive disorder, bipolar disorder. In these patients' daily lives, there is certain to be one or more abnormal situations that place them under great pressure. For example, bullying at school or cyberbullying, sexual violence against women, or social inequality. These kinds of abnormal situations, that is, the main culprits dealing the greatest damage to their psyches, very ironically, nearly all originate from their families, from their workplace, from society. They originate from us. I think that mentally ill people shouldn't be locked away unless there is no other alternative. Rather, they should be allowed to roam freely in the world just like any normal person. This is how they can heal their state of mind and become one of us again. Cages should be reserved for criminals, not for patients who have already suffered so much. He Yu didn't like Xie Qingcheng, but he agreed with him on this point. The reason why he allowed Xie Qingcheng to stay by his side for so long was precisely due to this perspective. It made He Yu feel that, at the very least, Xie Qingcheng regarded him as a living, breathing human being. Thus, after what happened yesterday, upon realizing that he had gone too far and offended Xie Qingcheng, he had felt that he should at least apologize to him. This is wild. That He Yu is like, uh-oh, maybe I should apologize. Maybe that was too far. Like, already? Okay. But who could have known that Xie Qingcheng's familiarity with his disguise would actually lead him to believe that even his apologies were false and end up splashing beer all over his face? Merely thinking of it filled He Yu with sorrow. He closed his eyes, determined to shake the humiliating feeling of the icy droplets of liquid streaming down his face that still lingered. Forget it. Don't think about it anymore. At least Xie Qingcheng had only sworn at him and thrown a drink in his face. Others would treat a mentally ill person like him like an animal. If his family had put him in a loony bin like Chung Kong, his illness might have long since gotten much worse. Jiang Lanpei had stayed there for 20 years. Did her illness ultimately improve or worsen? Perhaps she wouldn't have ended up taking this path in the first place if she'd never been admitted. Lao Zhao knocked on the door of He Yu's room. Upon receiving permission, he entered with the little yellow dog trailing behind him, cautiously wagging its tail. Young Master He, your instructions have all been carried out. He proceeded to give He Yu a status update on several matters. I've already given Homeless Services a heads up and explained your intentions to Executive He. Arrangements have been made for Zhuang Jiqiang to stay at our rehabilitation center for the time being. He won't be sent to Wanping. Good. Thanks for all your hard work, said He Yu. Zhuang Jiqiang was also pretty damn fortunate. His room was on a lower floor, and he had been quickly rescued by the firefighters. If nothing else, they'd been brought together through fateful coincidence. So He Yu had no intention of abandoning him after what they had gone through. Besides, Xie Shui would definitely worry about him. All the people who had been involved in the massive fire at Chongkong received about a week of vacation to recover both mentally and physically. With this experience behind them, they now had to look to the future. Seeing as they had escaped the fires of purgatory, they really ought to live their lives happily and peacefully from now on, including He Yu. Yeah, He Yu is trying. Like, he's not... Like, he has these schemes and plots, but, like, sometimes he's a good guy. He Yu let his mind drift back to that night, out on the portico. Didn't Xie Qingcheng say no one would be willing to deal with him? Didn't Xie Qingcheng say that if anyone could stay with him for more than a month, he would take his surname? Very well. He would just have to get together with Xie Shui then. He wanted to be with the person closest to Xie Qingcheng, to steal his younger sister away from his side. And when the time came, Xie Qingcheng would have to live up to his word and change his name to He Qingcheng. He Yu could only imagine how that man would feel when that happened. The way that he's like, I have to be with his sister for his sake. Sure. The thought delighted him. That insufferably arrogant and frigidly stern face. Would it reveal an expression that he'd never seen before? After a week of rest, He Yu returned to the university campus with renewed motivation. He was ready to make a fool of Xie Qingcheng and confess his feelings to Xie Qingcheng's most beloved little sister. I'm like, He Yu, I thought you were in this for her, not her brother. But sure. Oh, hi, Sarah. I'm glad you made it. The outdoor lamps on the villa's balcony were just bright enough to attract a few hovering insects searching for light. Droplets of moisture clung to the glass of the lamp like a sheen of cold sweat, and an armchair that had its back facing the grand doors of the balcony was enveloped in its dim glow. Someone was sitting in the armchair. The subordinate who pushed open the door to enter could only see a sliver of the person's hidden silhouette, their elbow lying slanted against the armrest. Is that so? There was an instance of patients successfully escaping in an extremely short period of time? Yes, Duan Laoban. Fascinating. Duan Laoban let out a soft chuckle from the chair. The power of teamwork? Chung Kong is a psychiatric hospital, not a nursery for teaching little children manners and conduct. This really is quite unusual. Cold sweat beaded on the subordinate's forehead. Duan Laoban, Chung Kong's surveillance was decrepit to begin with, and no equipment survived the fire. We want to extract footage from the incident, but it's really... I didn't hope to extract useful footage from that squandering Yang Ji-chung's death in the first place. Duan Laoban paused. Has there been news from the police department? There has, actually. A few patients said that a fellow patient gave them the keys and told them to help each other open the doors, but that was the extent of their information. Duan Laoban scoffed quietly. Even if you gave them keys and told them to open doors, would they listen? Silence answered him. There was a blazing inferno. Duan Laoban continued. It was a critical moment between life and death. The subordinate shivered. Duan Laoban, do you mean to say... The man in the armchair didn't speak again. The dim light illuminated the scrap of paper he'd carelessly tossed before him. 2 words written on top, circled, and punctuated with a question mark. Blood toxin. And that is the end of the chapter. We're on page 219 for chapter 17, and it's called He and I Were Trapped Together. Surviving the incident at the Chung Kong Psychiatric Hospital made Xie Shui into a legendary teacher at the school. When she returned to the lectern, not a single student arrived late or left early without a legitimate excuse. The classroom was jam-packed every lecture, with students from other classes attending the lesson if they weren't busy. Even the dreamboat from the 4th-year drama class stumbled in to take a good look at her. All the students wanted to see this lucky duck who had supposedly escaped the clutches of deranged and violent murderer. Even more outlandishly, there were those who believed that if you printed out Xie Shui's photo and hung it on your dormitory door, the entire dorm would be sure to pass their classes. But Xie Shui was oblivious to all of this. She believed with great confidence that the reason behind the current unprecedented surge in popularity of her screenwriting and directing classes must be because her teaching methods were extremely interesting. I really must be a genius educator who teaches in the best of ways, Xie Shui said gleefully to He Yu, who had come to deliver the class's homework to her. Oh yeah, He Yu, are you feeling better? The school wants to give you an award. Granted, the way you rashly charged into the fire shouldn't be imitated, but the university president said that your selfless act of courage is commendable. He Yu smiled. I'm much better. That award is mostly for my parents, anyway. He Jiwei and Liu Jishu had found out about what happened, but they made no special efforts to return home upon hearing that their son wasn't severely hurt. It was a surprising decision for Liu Jishu in particular. She always dealt with her clients with a smile, cracking one joke after another. Those who weren't familiar with her would get the impression that she was very charming and placed great value on family and life. But people more familiar with her, like Xie Shui and Xie Qingcheng, knew all too well that her humor and kindness were a facade. As far as she was concerned, her business away from home was naturally far more important than her eldest son, who had merely experienced a somewhat distressing ordeal. She simply called the school's administration and told the board of directors to pressure the school into consoling He Yu properly. Therefore, He Yu didn't care one bit about these frivolous awards. Oh, Henry, believe me, I hate them too. Xie Shui didn't know what to say. She felt pity for He Yu, but not wanting to pry into He Yu's family matters, she hurriedly switched to a more lighthearted topic. So the school's hosting a campus exploration event on Friday. You've been through so much recently, so this is a perfect opportunity to unwind and have fun with your classmates. Why don't you join? I can't. I have something I need to do on Friday. I see. Xie Shui's face fell. That's too bad. I was going to ask you to keep me company. He Yu's aloof expression perked up a bit as he looked at her, asking, "You're going?" "I have to." Shui took out a giant furry fox head from behind her desk, and after digging around some more, fished out a snowy white tail as well. "Look at this." "What is this?" "A costume for a 9-tailed fox mascot. The school organized it so that every department needs to select one teacher to wear a costume and welcome guests. My luck is so rotten. Not only did I get volunteered as tribute, but I even drew the most boring activity venue. Isn't it always that those who are dumb at least have good luck? So how come you not only have a low IQ, but shitty luck too?" Okay, I know it's Yu, but I can't believe he actually just said that to her. I thought he was keeping his opinions about her intelligence mostly to himself. Like, okay. Shui's face crumpled. She didn't even feel like dealing with Yu's snide remarks. Yu sighed and then asked, "Where are you being banished to?" "The newly revamped Neverland Island in the Central Lake. You know, that damned place might be called Neverland, but seriously? Even though the students strung up some lanterns and projected an image of the night sky over that useless place, it's pretty much the same as it has always been. Plus, it's so far away. The whole thing was supposed to be cancelled this year, but the dean thinks of this event as a tradition, so we still kept it in the end." Yeah, sorry, Henry, that just occurred to me too. Your campus has a lake? Apparently. She dejectedly tossed the fox head and tail away and sprawled out limply in her chair. Yu picked up the furry, snow-white tail she tossed onto the desk and looked at it thoughtfully for a moment. He didn't say anything, but an idea popped into his head. I don't like it. I don't like when he has ideas. Friday arrived in the blink of an eye. The buttery aroma of warm sponge cake wafted through the bakery classroom. Yu carefully put the finishing touches on the freshly made cake, covered it with a pure white sheet of wax paper, and packed it into a box. Then he diligently tidied up the bakery classroom that one of the teachers had allowed him to use and walked out. The campus exploration event was boisterously underway. I don't have time to hang out, Yu took a leisurely stroll around the campus, with one hand carrying Shui's favorite whipped cream mango mousse cake, and the other tucked into his pocket. He checked out a world travel-themed maze and won a small stuffed toy dog, a white Samoyed that looked like a smiling angel with round, dark chocolatey eyes that gazed up at him as he hugged it in the crook of his arm. Look! A group of schoolgirls were standing nearby with their little fists pressed to their mouths. Fragments of their conversation floated over to Yu's ears from time to time. "It's Yu Shuijong. The Shuijong who rescued his teacher from the fire. He's even hotter in person than in his pictures." "What Shuijong, you silly girl? He's a Shuidi. He's in the 1001 screenwriting and directing class." "Huh? But he's so tall. He looks like he's gotta be almost 180 centimeters. Wait, no, he has to be like 190. I have a friend in his class who said that Yu's family is super wealthy, and he's gorgeous and has perfect grades to boot. Isn't that just like Wei Dongheng Shuizhang? Forget it. Wei Dongheng doesn't behave like a man at all. He's so full of himself and prettier than a flower, yet you still want to call him Shuizhang? You might as well call him Shuijie instead. He's such a show-off, flaunting his family's wealth, and clearly spoiled rotten. Last week, the prettiest girl in the Class 5 drama course confessed to him. And do you know what he said? What? What? You? Why don't you look in the mirror? Want me to send you a set of skincare products? The first girl couldn't muster a reply to this. But Yu's not like that. He has such an easygoing personality and is so well-mannered, he won't even raise his voice at people. Heck, he even risked his life to save Xie Laoshe. Where can you find such a nice boy? Hearing them talk about him like this, Yu gave them a little smile. The school girls quietly squealed, "He heard us," and then immediately scattered into the distance in embarrassment. In his usual gentle and refined manner, Yu held back a second smile as he watched them go, his gaze darkening. Xie Qingcheng should really get a load of this. How could anyone not like him? He didn't actually have any interest in these schoolgirls, but that person was the only one he wanted. The phone in his pocket buzzed, breaking him out of his thoughts. He Yu checked the message. "He Laoban, you really want me to chop down the rope bridge?" Okay, I could see where this is going. I think he wants to, like, try to trap himself and Xie Shui on some island of the lake together. But he's gonna end up trapped with Xie Qingcheng instead. Because every time he tries to do something to Xie Shui, it totally backfires. Also, you were correct, Henry, about, the fursuit. Meat Bun will do anything but write Omegaverse. Oh, you're frying octopus? Oh my god, that sounds really good. But yeah, I imagine sponge cake plus octopus doesn't really sound like a very good combination. It had come from a second-year outdoor recreation club member. Neverland Island lay in the middle of Huzhou University's Garden Lake. The center of the island had a campsite set up by the university's outdoor recreation club. This message was from the senior who usually managed it. He Yu replied, "The rope bridge has gone a long time without repairs. It'd be dangerous to keep it up. Besides, chopping it down would also make it easier for the dean to replace it." The second year texted back, "But the dean just had workers do a maintenance check at the beginning of the term. Our club is responsible for managing Neverland Island, so if it broke in such a short period of time, our outdoor recreation club would have to pay for it. Even though it's just a small floating bridge, it would cost at least 3,000 RMB to fix." In response to this message, He Yu solved the problem with a few taps on his screen. He imagined the sudden clinking coin sound effect that his fellow senior's phone was making at this very moment, accompanying the message, "5,000 RMB has been sent to your Alipay account." Executive He's message followed right on its heels. "Please make sure to chop it down thoroughly." The communication methods of the bourgeoisie were so simple and decisive. The penniless club member was speechless. According to the directions on the campus exploration event map, the nine-tailed fox would wait for students at the dock, then accompany those who wanted to take the duck-shaped boats to Neverland Island. He Yu walked toward the lakeshore covered in withered leaves and dead branches. As expected, he saw Xie Shui wearing the white nine-tailed fox mascot costume and waiting for the students who would come for the boat rides. The white fox sat quietly in the boat, seemingly unaware that one of its 9 tails had fallen onto the water surface, setting off ripple after ripple from the swaying vessel. He walked closer to the fox, the fallen leaves crunching softly beneath his feet. The zoned-out 9-tailed fox mascot didn't hear him approaching until he was standing by the shore. Xie Shui. The 9-tailed fox was stunned for a moment, before it turned its head to look at him in surprise. He Yu smiled. "Bet you didn't think I'd come." He glanced around at their surroundings. "They really sent you far away from everyone. I doubt anyone else would bother coming out here, so if I didn't come, you'd be left sitting around here all day." The 9-tailed fox looked at him in silence, as if it didn't quite agree with what he said. "Who else do you think would come visit you? Your brother?" Why do I feel like this is not Xie Shui? Like, I don't know why or how this would happen, but I'm somehow imagining a situation where, like, she was like, I really don't want to do this, and got her brother to wear the costume for her. Like, but because it's like the fact that the person in the suit is not saying anything, and I'm concerned. After a pause, Yu said gently, your brother is nearing menopause, and yet he keeps getting forced into matchmaking dates out of his age cohort. He spends all his days so pissed off by those little girls that he needs to drink women's soothing tonic to calm down. He probably doesn't have the time or energy to care about you. The nine-tailed fox didn't react. Yu stepped gracefully onto the boat. Come on, I'll go with you to Neverland Island. A lake on a university campus couldn't be all that big, so even though the island was in the central lake, it took less than 2 minutes for the two of them to reach that lump of dirt called Neverland. The island looked as pathetic and deserted as expected. There were a few strings of lanterns hung up just for show, and some tent-building materials strewn around the campsite, covered in a thick layer of accumulated dust. There were too many mosquitoes out right now, so even though it had already been a month since school started, the Outdoor Recreation Club had yet to organize a single event. Yu said, I'll be your customer. So, where do I get the stamp? The nine-tailed fox silently moved its head, gesturing toward a certain direction. Yu looked at the full-body fox costume, and his amusement reared its head once more. It's so hot today. Don't you feel stuffy wearing that? Why don't I help you take it off? At the sight of him reaching out, the nine-tailed fox took a quick step back, holding its paws up in front of it. You don't want to? It nodded. Ah, okay, keep wearing it then. Don't come crying to me if it gets too hot. The nine-tailed fox lowered its snowy paws indifferently and crossed its arms. Yu gazed at it. To be honest, it's pretty cute. If you look like this, Guga will give you full marks on your performance review later. Once again, silence hung between them. Go ahead and lead the way then, Yu said. The stamp was located in the middle of Neverland Island, and atop a small, simple desk. The nine-tailed fox silently leaned against a tree and turned its head to gaze off into the distance. Yu turned to look at it after getting his stamp. While he found the whole thing amusing, he also felt the costume's head must be too heavy for Xie Shui. Not to mention, given his predisposition to bullying people, the more Xie Shui didn't want him to remove the headwear, the more he wanted to get it off. And so, seeing that the nine-tailed fox had turned in a different direction, he found himself seized by a sudden whim. Setting his things on the ground, he walked over silently, and once he was close enough, he grabbed the head abruptly and with a big smile on his face, pulled up. Xie Shui. What? How could it be? The face covered in disheveled hair that appeared from beneath the headpiece didn't belong to Xie Shui at all. It was a clearly furious Xie Qingcheng. I knew it. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, as soon as Meat Bun started using it to refer to the fox, and the person was not saying anything, I was like, I'm sorry, but I know what you're doing here. Both men were at a loss for words. Professor Xia's mouth opened and shut several times in succession. After pressing his lips tightly together for a while, he pushed his messy fringe out of his eyes and gave a glare that pierced Yu like a dagger. The tips of his white teeth were just barely visible under his thin lips as he gritted his teeth. He broke the silence with a terrifyingly chilly voice. Are you fucking insane? Executive He's expression darkened the moment he saw Xie Qingcheng. No, but why did you crawl your way into the stupid mascot getup without telling me? Xie Qingcheng tossed the headpiece into He Yu's arms and pulled himself out of the costume with a frown. It was truly a rare occasion. The elite Professor Xie was always immaculate, so He Yu could never have imagined that he'd ever be able to see something as wretched as Xie Qingcheng laboriously climbing out of the suit with disheveled hair. Why would I tell you? You said so much nonsense the entire way here. When would I even have had the chance? If you're done getting your stamp, then scram. He Yu stared at him in dissatisfaction. Where's Xie Xue? She found it too hot and asked me to take her place. Now who's the one busy with matchmaking dates and needs to drink women's soothing tonic again? He Yu didn't reply. Oh my god. There's art. There's art. Okay. Alright. The way that they drew his eyes. I'm so glad we have art of this. Meat Bun went to one furry convention and had an idea. Meeting Xie Qingcheng's incisive, scalpel-like gaze, He Yu recalled what he had said earlier and smiled. Please don't take it to heart. Those were just idle remarks. This was the first time they'd met since parting ways at the police station. After the initial horror of the situation faded, the atmosphere became a bit awkward, especially for Xie Qingcheng. Shortly after throwing beer in He Yu's face, he felt that his actions had been entirely unnecessary. He was accustomed to keeping a cool head, but that day, the pressure of his emotions had gotten the better of him. So, when He Yu happened to hit a sore spot, he lost his temper and started a fight with the younger man. Under normal circumstances, he wouldn't have stooped so low as to squabble with a boy 13 years his junior. I love how Meat Bun is like, I've got to remind you of their age gap at every given opportunity. Right, his scalpel-like gaze, and he's a doctor. Well, was a doctor. I gotta be honest, I, didn't even register with me at first. Now, as He Yu apologized to him again, Xie Qingcheng paused while running his hands through his messy hair. His tone eased slightly as he broke the tense atmosphere and responded, Forget it. Weren't you busy today? Yeah. How did you know? Xie Xue said she asked you because she planned on having you take her place. But you said you were busy today and had no time, so she felt awkward asking. She planned on having him take her place. I still am trying to figure out Xie Xue's feelings towards He Yu. And that is interesting. Where the heck am I? He Yu fell silent for a long while. Instead of responding to Xie Qingcheng, he set the mascot head and the Samoyed plushie to the side. He stood with his hand to his forehead as he processed the situation. Then he turned around and walked back toward the dock, the bag with the mango mousse cake in hand. I should have checked the almanac today before coming out. However, when He Yu returned to the Neverland Island dock with a sliver of hope in his heart, all he saw were the bobbing, duck-shaped boats that had already been moored on the opposite bank. The boats swayed back and forth, their golden beaks distorted into mocking smiles by the warped light reflecting off of the waves. It was only then that He Yu remembered that he'd personally asked his Shuezhong to cut off all means of transport after he landed on the island, so that he could trap Xie Xue here alone and tell her his feelings. Was this what it meant to shoot oneself in the foot? He Yu's eyebrows twitched slightly. What's wrong? The sound of footsteps approached him from behind. He didn't need to turn back to know that the only other featherless biped on this island was Xie Qingcheng. He Yu had originally planned for a single man and a single lady to stay on this island, a perfect scenario for romance. But now, not only were two single men trapped on this island, but the other was the one man whom he detested the most. The more he thought about it, the more vicious he felt. It was to the point where he kind of wanted to handcuff Xie Qingcheng's hands behind his back, tie him to a tree, and torment him half to death for an entire night in this lonely wilderness until Xie Qingcheng's complexion turned pale and his body was covered in bits of grass, until he passed out, until he died. There was nobody else coming anyway, and if he couldn't declare his love to Xie Shui, then it was just as well if he could personally destroy this man. In any case, he shouldn't waste this no man's land that he had built so carefully. Who asked him to ruin his plans, anyway? Having removed the mascot costume, Xie Qingcheng's figure appeared tall and slender as his aura abruptly changed. When he caught up to He Yu and walked beside him, it was as though He Yu could smell that elusively cold scent of medicine and disinfectant that he couldn't stand all over again. He Yu composed himself and tamped down on the unrealistic urge to commit a crime as he turned around once more. I don't know why the boats are all on the other side. Maybe they're being operated from the control room? Xie Qingcheng stuck his hands in his pockets as he expressionlessly mulled things over for a while. It's okay. There's a rope bridge. Follow me. 5 minutes later, Xie Qingcheng stared at the now mostly submerged rope bridge in silence, with disbelief written all over his face. It seems the rope bridge has also broken. Ah, how unlucky. Someone must have pulled a prank. Although He Yu feigned calm on the outside, on the inside he was completely dispirited. Considerably dispirited. Would you look at that? If it isn't the consequences of my own actions. After a while, you'll also find that there's no phone signal either. He had originally planned on staying on this island with Xie Shui until around midnight. To that end, he'd even managed to get his hands on a set of signal jammers that were used for the university entrance examinations to prevent cheating. Actually, it could be said that they were even more effective than the ones used in the examination, because he'd reprogrammed the devices himself. He Yu was rather capable in this respect. He would often distract himself when bored, by focusing all his attention on studying how to break into computer systems and signal interference. I didn't realize he was like a hacker character. Given his opponent's firewalls, breaking into computer programs was a race against time. It was quite effective at diverting his attention from his pain and keeping his illness under control. After so many years of practice, he had inadvertently become a formidable first-rate hacker. Of course, he wouldn't tell his senior that the signal jammer was of his own making. He only had him activate the device on the other side of the shore, thus ensuring that Xie Shui would get no response no matter what. If anyone tried to come to Neverland Island, his Shuezhong would also tell them that this activity was too boring and had already been shut down. He Yu had originally thought that this was a perfectly seamless plan. For the sake of it, he'd even made sure to stress the details to his accomplice. Remember to wait on the opposite shore until midnight before sending the boats back over. Understood, He Laoban. You must ignore us no matter how much we call for help during this time. I want to put on a convincing act in front of her, otherwise she'll get suspicious very easily. No problem, He Laoban. At present, as He Laoban gazed at Xie Qingcheng's slender and poised silhouette, he felt a slight headache coming on. What do you mean, no problem? He Yu inwardly scolded himself. This problem is turning out to be a bit too big. Wait a minute, there's someone on the other side. Xie Qingcheng had walked halfway around the lump of dirt that was Neverland Island and discovered the senior club member standing watch on the other shore. I'll call for him. It's useless for you to do it, He Yu sighed, mustering his final wisp of hope. It's better if I do it. Xie Qingcheng asked, why is that? I'm just being filial. I respect the elderly and cherish youth. Is that a good enough reason for you? He Yu felt like he was truly at the end of his rope, and didn't want to bother wasting his breath with Xie Qingcheng anymore. He began waving on his own toward his wingman across the water, but to no avail. Henry, you tried so hard to shut up about this lore. Well, thank you. It definitely pays off. 15 minutes later, the dry-mouthed young Master He leaned back against the tree trunk. Xie Qingcheng mocked mildly. Now that you're done being filial, do you still have any energy left? Young adult men who had just come of age had the biggest of egos. To them, the most unbearable thing was to hear others say they were impotent. However, He Yu genuinely had no explanation to offer, and so he simply turned to his other side, unwilling to even look at Xie Qingcheng. He picked a knee-length stalk of foxtail grass and slapped in frustration at the mosquitoes buzzing around him. The more he stood there and thought, the more irritated He Yu became. He tossed the stalk of grass away with a flick and turned to walk into the forest. "Where are you going?" Xie Qingcheng asked. "I'm going to get a drink of water from the campsite." The boy's voice had already gone hoarse from yelling. After walking some distance away, He Yu took out a different, unblocked phone and sent his accomplice a message with a nauseated expression. "Something's gone wrong. Please help us get off the island." The senior club member replied in an instant, and he didn't even forget to suck up to this member of the bourgeoisie. Very impressive, Executive He. You're acting so good. Even this message is fake, right? Why would he... Why would he go out of his way to fake the message? Oh, dear. Another few seconds passed, and another message arrived. "Executive He, I remember that you told me before to not let you two out, no matter what you said. I'll take care of everything, so don't you worry. I'll only come pick you up after midnight. If other people try to get close to Neverland Island, I'll chase them off. So don't worry and enjoy your private time together." He Yu couldn't come up with a suitable reply. What was he supposed to enjoy on this deserted island? Enjoy Xie Qingcheng? If murder weren't illegal, he could certainly chain Xie Qingcheng up, toss him into a heap of straw, and enjoy himself all night long. But what was he supposed to enjoy now? Well, that's the end of the chapter. Okay, well, I'm gonna take a break. And when we come back, we will be on page 235 for chapter 18, which is called "I Remembered the Day He Left His Job." Which as much as I want all the antics with them trapped together on the island, I also very much want to know, I've been wanting to know why the heck Xie Qingcheng left his job as a doctor, so I'm very curious. I bet it had something to do with He Yu. I don't know. Somehow, tangentially, somehow it has something to do with He Yu. I'm certain. So yeah, I will be right back. Hello, I'm back. Henry, thank you. That quote had to be in there. I knew it did. It was like as soon as we read that part, I was like, that's gotta go in the quote slideshow. Alright. I don't know. I'm so ready to continue. I don't know if I'm very curious to find out about why Xie Qingcheng left his job. And I don't think I'm ready for, like, I don't know, the plot things that are about to happen, because I'm never ready for what's about to happen in this book. Like, none of this, given, like, what I knew at the start of reading Case File, there's so little that I could have predicted. Like, I don't know what I thought was gonna happen, but it was just like, what are we doing? Oh yeah, the magic of Chang Jinzhou quotes versus this. It's so different. It's like beautifully artistic quotes, and then we just have like, He Yu disliked homosexuality. Alright. Chapter 18. I remembered the day he left his job. Given that he lived in a lawful society, He Yu obviously couldn't toss Xie Qingcheng into the underbrush to torture him for the sake of vengeance. But in any case, there was no way for them to leave. So the two of them ended up accepting their fate and returning to the camping grounds with nothing to do but stare at each other and make idle conversation. Perhaps this is what actually happened with Adam and Eve. They weren't really in love. They simply had no other options than each other. After all, they could hardly spend all their time talking to the snake in the tree. Little devil, Xie Qingcheng spoke up. Aside from Xie Qingcheng, no one else ever called He Yu Little Devil. Furthermore, whenever he called him this, it usually meant that Xie Qingcheng intended to have a proper conversation with him. He Yu turned. Has the injury on your hand healed? It has. He Yu smiled. Dr. Xie, why are you worrying about my hand? That day at the police station, you seemed like you were half tempted to stab me again. You know that I genuinely don't want to hear others talk about the past. Then did you know that I was genuinely trying to apologize to you that day? Xie Qingcheng looked up without a word. He Yu's smile remained, but his eyes were cold and indifferent when returning Xie Qingcheng's gaze. It's just how I am, Xie Qingcheng. I wasn't being insincere that day, nor was I, as you said, speaking like a member of the bourgeoisie giving a PR statement. Ever since I was little, it was always you guys who demanded that I control my emotions. Could it be that it's been too long since you left your job that you've forgotten what you once told me yourself? A few beats of silence passed, and Xie Qingcheng said, It's true that it's been a long time since I left my job. It's been 4 years. And in that time, I still haven't had the chance to ask you properly, said Xie Qingcheng. How are you doing? Much better. He Yu smiled once more. There's no need for you to worry. Regardless of how I see you as a person, I've always considered your medical philosophy to be sound and kept the instructions you gave me in mind. Xie Qingcheng took in the youth's indifferent expression and said, That's great. Your illness demands that you save yourself. No matter what doctor you have, the most important thing is your own mindset. He Yu fell silent for a spell, then lowered his head and smiled. Just listen to yourself. These words of yours. Why do they sound so familiar? Ah. He paused as his eyes glazed over with a chilly sheen. I remember now. You said those words to me once before, Dr. Xie. It was the day when you left. The day when Xie Qingcheng had quit being his doctor. The previous day, after He Yu and Xie Xue had finished doing some reading at the library, it began to rain. He Yu walked Xie Xue home under his umbrella. Thanks for walking me all this way. It's nothing. Do you want to come in for a bit? Though my house is kind of small. Won't I be intruding? Of course not. I was just worried you'd feel uncomfortable. Shue smiled as she pulled He Yu's hand and led him toward the alleyway where her house was located. Xie Qingcheng wasn't home, but Li Ruoqiu was. The woman was sitting at her desk and in the middle of messaging someone on her phone with an irrepressible smile on her face. She didn't even look up when her little sister-in-law stepped into the house, as she said, Xie, you're back. He Yu rarely interacted with Li Ruoqiu. As he entered the house, he very politely said, Li Sao, sorry for the disturbance. Li Ruoqiu started in surprise at the sound of his voice and lifted her head. Ah, a VIP, a VIP. Quick, take a seat. She got up in a hurry to make him some tea. He Yu smiled. Saozi, there's no need to trouble yourself. I was just walking Xie home, so I'll be leaving soon. What are you saying? Take a seat. I'll go fetch you guys some snacks. She turned and left. Xie leaned over and said, Saozi's a pretty good person, and super enthusiastic, but if you refuse her, she'll get angry. Li Ruoqiu was a very strong-willed woman indeed. He Yu could tell based on the handful of fleeting encounters he'd had with her. Not to mention, what kind of ordinary woman would want to marry a cold and patriarchal man like Xie Qingcheng? So he obediently took a seat. The old houses in Huzhou's alleyways were very cramped. This one in particular was a studio that had been partitioned with curtains. The junior high school boy had already reached puberty and hit his growth spurt and all the changes that came with it. This was the first time he had entered Xie Qingcheng's personal territory. His gaze flickered across the furnishings of the room and paused for a moment on that double bed half hidden behind gauze curtains. A strange sort of feeling arose in his heart. It was difficult for him to imagine what Xie Qingcheng and Li Ruoqiu would do there. He Yu very politely averted his gaze. Here's the tea now, and I brought some snacks too. I don't know if you're used to eating this sort of thing, though. Li Ruoqiu handled the household tasks with a smile. She brought over a pot of hot tea and little pastries. There was even a platter of cut fruit on the tray. Give it a try. I baked the pastries myself. Saozi, you've really gone to a lot of trouble. Li Ruoqiu covered her mouth with a hand and laughed. Her clever eyes sized up He Yu and Xie in turn. Although these two children had a significant age gap, adolescent boys grew very quickly. Plus, He Yu wasn't wearing his school uniform today. Instead, he was dressed in fall clothes. A high-collared black shirt, jeans, and a baseball cap. He was also already nearing 180 centimeters. So he didn't look much like a junior high schooler at all. When he sat next to Xie, who was a few years older than him, their heights and appearances were, in fact, quite well matched. A brief silence fell over the room. After a few minutes, unable to help herself, Li Ruoqiu let out a pff of laughter and waved a hand. Okay, you two chat. I'll go visit Auntie Li for a while. Ah, Xie said, Saozi. But Li Ruoqiu had already waltzed out of the room. Even an idiot would know what she was thinking, what with the eyebrow-waggling smile she had graced them with before leaving. Xie immediately felt a bit awkward, and her little face visibly flushed red. He Yu, I'm sorry. My sister-in-law really likes to watch idol dramas, and the more she watches, the more likely she is to overthink things. It's all right. He Yu looked down and drank a mouthful of warm tea. Li Ruoqiu's misunderstanding made him quite happy, so he smiled and said, I don't mind. Oh, Henry, I just looked up. I got The Disabled God of War Became My Concubine. I have not started reading it yet. I don't know when I'm gonna get the chance. Hopefully soon. It's really weird. We were talking about this on Discord, but they didn't put a table of contents in it. I don't know why. But that's literally, I haven't read any of it. I've literally only opened it, noticed there were no contents, and was like, huh, okay. He liked Xiaoshui a lot, so Li Ruoqiu hadn't misunderstood much at all. Oh, right. Your brother's not working tomorrow, but he's coming to my house to take care of some business. Do you want to come with him? After he's done, I'll take you out to barbecue. Hearing that there would be food, Xiaoshui happily agreed. However, when He Yu got home that evening, he saw the lights were on in the living room. Liu Jishu was sitting inside reading the newspaper when he walked in, a surprising sight. Liu Jishu and He Jiwei were rarely home. The He family had 2 permanent villas, one in Huzhou and the other in Yanzhou, which was the primary residence. He Yu had only ever lived in Yanzhou when he was very young. When he was 5, he had been taken to live in Huzhou. But it was different for his younger brother, who was expected to study and was used to raising hell with his rich playboy friends in the area. He had a heart attack whenever he saw that elder brother of his who excelled in all areas, so he pretty much only stayed in the primary residence. So it came to be that the brothers lived on opposite sides of the Yangtze River, and when their parents were free, they were naturally more willing to stay with the precious, innocent, and cute younger brother. Unless there was pertinent business to take care of, they very rarely came to stay with He Yu. Why are you back? He Yu ventured hesitantly. I just had some business, Liu Jishu said as she put down the newspaper. Sit down. I have something to tell you. Instead, the young teenager took off his backpack and shoes and walked into the room to stand in front of his mother, making her look up at him. He Yu looked down. Go ahead. Liu Jishu poured a glass of red wine for herself, took a sip, and then said, Tomorrow will be the last day Dr. Xie comes to treat you. After that, he will no longer be our family's personal physician. He Yu froze in shock. He had not expected this. After a long time, he heard himself say in a seemingly calm tone, Why so sudden? I didn't tell you beforehand because I was afraid you'd make a fuss if you knew. Why? Liu Jishu didn't answer his question directly. Instead, she said, We are already in the process of wrapping everything up and settling the medical bill. Once he comes to report to me tomorrow, he will also say his goodbyes to you. As for after that, she took another sip of wine before landing the final blow. You should stop interacting with their family. He Yu felt quiet. Do you understand my intentions? We aren't members of the same class. Lao Jiao told me you were visiting Dr. Xie's home in Moyu Alley with his sister when I had him pick you up this afternoon. Liu Jishu sighed. To tell the truth, you've made me quite disappointed. Mencius's mother moved thrice, carefully selecting neighborhoods in which to live. There is a long footnote. Mencius, or Mengzi, is a famous Confucian philosopher held to be second in importance only to Confucius himself in the Confucian ideology. According to legend, his mother, seeking to find the best place to raise her son, first moved near a graveyard, where the young Mencius began to mimic the rituals of the mourners. Then she moved near a market, where he began to mimic the merchants selling their wares. Finally, she moved near a school, where Mencius began to imitate the etiquette and study habits of the scholars. All parents hope their sons can be surrounded by appropriate companions. Oh, Mengzi. Yeah. Wait. Yeah. Oh, it's Henry. I didn't. I think Confucius is like Kongzi is like his other name. No, it's Mengzi, like Z-I. Am I saying that totally right? I kind of have trouble with differentiating between the Z-I and the Z-E sometimes. So yeah, a little different. She assessed the boy's figure, already tall and broad. Then she shifted her gaze up to land on He Yu's face, which was already distinctly handsome. Especially female companions. Silence hung over the living room for a long time before He Yu finally asked, Are these Dr. Xia's intentions? Resigning is his intention. Having you keep your distance from their family is mine. Liu Jishu spoke honestly as she smiled and closed the gap between herself and He Yu. She looked up as she lifted her hand to smooth back his fringe. But I think Dr. Xie understands my intentions as well. He wouldn't want to maintain superfluous connections after his work is finished either. He's a very rational person. It's one of the reasons why your father and I appreciate and trust him so much. When He Yu didn't respond, Liu Jishu added, "If you don't believe me, you can ask him yourself tomorrow." The next day, Xie Qingcheng came. After signing and handing over the papers, he gave He Yu one last medical checkup. When it was completed, he said softly to the boy lying on the medical recliner, "Your mother should have already told you." He Yu didn't say anything. "Starting from tomorrow, I will no longer be serving your family. If you feel unwell in the future, don't distract yourself by self-harming like you did in the past." Thanks, that's very helpful. In addition, no matter which doctor comes to treat you in the future, remember that the most important thing is your own mindset. As expected, when the young doctor said these words, he didn't bring any of his personal emotions into it. Liu Jishu was right. To Xie Qingcheng, the boundary between He Yu and himself had always been perfectly clear. Their families were from completely different worlds. He Yu was the young master of the He family, the son of He Jiwei, and Xie Qingcheng was simply a doctor their family had hired. It wouldn't be beneficial for He Yu either, to always rely on a doctor to manage his mental plights. You have a rare disorder, one of like 4 people. I believe the other people have died from it. So I think that you need a doctor. Xie Qingcheng was very calm because he understood this better than anyone else. Okay. He provided his patients with care, support, and powerful mental encouragement, but there was no sentimentality in his farewells. He always handled doctor-patient relations in this crisp and clean manner. So, in the end, he only said, "All right, little devil. I wish you a speedy recovery." The boy who had just reached puberty suppressed the anger in his heart and stared at him. "You don't have anything else you want to say to me?" He waited for a while, but Xie Qingcheng didn't respond. He Yu said, "All right. If you don't, then I do." Xie Qingcheng still said nothing. "Xie Qingcheng, I've gone through many doctors these past years. They had me take medicine, gave me shots, and looked at me with an expression that said I was a singular, unique patient. You were the only one who was different. It's true that I really don't like you, but I've taken in every word you said because you were the only one who treated me like someone who could and should integrate into society. You told me that taking medicine and getting shots weren't the most important things, that it was most crucial for me to make connections with others and build up a strong sense of self. That's the only way I can keep holding on and moving forward." He Yu paused briefly. "Dr. Xie, we're not very close, but At this point, He Yu found himself unable to continue for a long time. He stared fixedly at Xie Qingcheng's face through his almond eyes. "I thought you saw me as a normal person with feelings, not just as a patient." "I do see you as a normal person with feelings," replied Xie Qingcheng. "And yet you leave so suddenly, just like this?" The teen's anger radiated from his mature body in a frightening aura of tangible pressure as he struggled to contain his emotions. Are relationships between 2 normal people like this? Xie Qingcheng took a moment to choose his words. "He Yu, I know that you might find this sudden, and I certainly should have let you know earlier, but your parents and I have already discussed this matter. I cannot go against their wishes, especially not your father's. Not only can he be considered an old friend of mine, but he's also my employer. Therefore, so long as I do not betray my own principles, I must respect his wishes first." "Then what about my wishes?" Xie Qingcheng said, "I'm just a doctor." "I'm your employer too." He Yu stared at him. Why didn't you ask what I wanted? Xie Qingcheng sighed. Control yourself, young man. I don't mean to disrespect you, but you're still a student. My salary isn't something that you'd be able to afford. He Yu didn't know what he was thinking. At this point in his life, he was already very calm and unflustered, and could navigate adult interactions without losing his composure. But when he thought about how Xie Qingcheng and Xie Xue were going to leave, he suddenly felt extremely helpless and blurted out, I have a lot of allowance, I can save it to buy cakes. He Yu stared at him silently. I'm not a slice of cake that you can buy just because your father won't get it for you, Xie Qingcheng reasoned. I came to treat you largely as a favor to him. It's impossible for me to go against his wishes. Do you understand? Why does he want you to leave? He didn't want me to leave, Xie Qingcheng said. It was my own choice. Didn't you ask me just now if such a separation, this end to our relationship, is normal between people? Xie Qingcheng gazed into He Yu's eyes as he continued. It is. Although I see you as a normal person with feelings, the relationship we've established between us is that of a doctor and his patient. Relationships between people must always come to an end. Even your parents, the people closest to you, cannot accompany you for life. Xie Qingcheng paused, letting his words sink in. Now, our doctor-patient relationship is at an end, so I must leave. This is a very normal conclusion to relationships between normal people. He Yu didn't reply. Your father and I agreed at the beginning that the duration of this relationship would be 7 years. Xie Qingcheng looked into He Yu's eyes again. It's not suitable for someone to continue staying with you at this stage of your illness. Sooner or later, you'll have to depend on yourself to walk out of the shadows in your heart. Do you understand? So you think the same way as my mother, that after today, there shouldn't be any other contact between you and me, between Xie Xue and me? If you need our help, you can contact us at any time, said Xie Qingcheng. After a pause, he added, as for the rest of the time, it's really not necessary. He Yu held his tongue. Also, your mother told me that you went out with Xie Xue alone, Xie Qingcheng said. As her guardian, I do feel that this is rather inappropriate. He assessed the teen and said in a calm and sensible voice, I know that the two of you have a large age gap, that what you feel for her is only a sense of dependence, and that you have no other intentions. But it's inevitable that certain ugly rumors will crop up in time, and that wouldn't be good for either of you. He Yu didn't correct his excessively archaic and naive thinking. He only said, So you approve of my mother's methods? I do. He Yu stared at him for a very long time. Then he sat back down and sunk into his chair. He propped his chin in his hand as he smiled slightly. That smile seemed like clouds obscuring the sun, thoroughly and completely covering the millimeter of genuine emotion that he only ever revealed with so much difficulty. He Yu said, Doctor, you're really so calm. It makes it seem like you're even more heartless than me, even though you're not ill. Very well. Since it's already come to this, you may go. I will keep note of what you said. I will save myself very calmly, and live on very calmly. In addition, I wish you every success and a smooth sailing career moving forward. However, He Yu changed the topic. Although Xie Xue is your sister, she has the right to make her own decisions. So no matter what you say, I will still go looking for her. Xie Qingcheng frowned, and his stare grew sharp as a knife. She's a girl, and you're already 14. You should have some sense of appropriate distance. Why do you insist on sticking to her? Because she's not like you. A beam of light cut decisively across the ground, leaving one of them in the light and the other in the darkness, like two broken fragments splintered down the middle. Interesting, it does not say who is on which side. She is the only bridge I have to the outside world. Xie Qingcheng paused for a moment before replying. Then you should find another bridge. The time had come. He had other matters to attend to and couldn't keep talking to He Yu, so he left. For the remainder of the day, from dusk until the dead of night, He Yu sat in the chair without moving a muscle. He Yu thought, Xie Qingcheng was such a cunning person. Xie Qingcheng always spoke reasonably. He was the one who had told He Yu that he hoped for him to treat himself as a normal person. He was the one who had told him that people could walk out from the shadows in their hearts all on their own. He was even the one who caused He Yu to develop the delusion that no matter how close He Yu got to Xie Xue, Xie Qingcheng, as her older brother, would still be able to accept him. Yeah, Sarah, I agree. They should be getting a referral. They shouldn't just act like he doesn't need a doctor anymore. Like, this is not... Like, he has, like, an extremely rare disorder. I feel like I have to keep saying it, like, 1 in, like, 4 people. And I'm just like, what is everyone around him doing? What are they doing? But on that day, Xie Qingcheng's actions made him realize that he had gotten too far ahead of himself. When it came to social relationships, the one between an employer and an employee was the simplest and clearest of them all. Regardless of whether it had been maintained for 10 or 20 years, they could settle all the accounts without the slightest emotional entanglement when the relationship ended, leaving no loose ends. Similarly, a personal physician could leave after being paid for his services because he had no reason to stay. In comparison to the other doctors He Yu had seen in the past, Xue Qingcheng wasn't actually all that special. In fact, he was even more cruel than the ones who saw He Yu as a different species, because he'd lied to him for the longest, and benefited the most from his blood and pain. It was Xie Qingcheng who made He Yu mistakenly believe that the relationships he'd built could last. It was he who made him mistakenly believe his affection for Xie Xue was something that her parental guardian could accept. But he had been wrong on all accounts. Now, on this isolated island, He Yu gazed at Xie Qingcheng's face as he thought about this part of his past. So many years had passed since then. Xie Qingcheng was still the elder brother of the Xie family, and nothing had really changed in the end. He was still unwilling to let Xie Xue be alone with him, still standing guard before his sister in a tyrannical, dictator-like, and protective position. Even the words he used to admonish He Yu were completely identical. Xie Qingcheng might very well be a great doctor with medical philosophies deserving of praise, a righteous way of thinking, and a strong sense of responsibility toward his patients, but unfortunately, he had no heart. Are you still thinking about what happened in the past? Xie Qingcheng's voice pulled He Yu back to the present. Snapping out of his musings, He Yu said, "You mentioned it, so it came to mind. Now that I think about it, you probably don't actually remember the way I used to speak in the past." He Yu smiled at last. In the end, the relationship between the two of us is merely a doctor-patient relationship that has already ended. Isn't that right? Before Xie Qingcheng could reply, a streak of light suddenly flared overhead. A loud bang sounded as a firework blossomed in the night sky. It was the brilliant fireworks that served as the campus exploration's finale every year. Countless flowers burst in midair with a barrage of explosions. "Right," said Xie Qingcheng. Amid this brilliant resplendence, the muffled boom of thunder suddenly rang out. A rain shower had begun. Ultimately, the tender blaze born from the fireworks couldn't stand up to the lightning's fierce, ice-cold chill, and quickly surrendered in defeat. In the distance, students giggled as they darted into lecture halls or dorms to avoid the rain, as droplets the size of soybeans pitter-pattered down onto the bustling world below. Beneath the darkening sky, He Yu maintained that small smile on his face as he said, "Then let's hide from the rain together, Dr. Xie. If I use your clear-headed style of reasoning to analyze this, aside from our doctor-patient relationship, you're also my teacher's older brother now. If you end up soaked in the rain, it'll be hard for me to explain myself to her. He paused briefly, and a mocking lilt entered his voice once more. For two people who have already ceased their doctor-patient relationship, hiding from the rain together should count as normal behavior that doesn't violate any boundaries of propriety, right? Xie Qingcheng knew that He Yu still held a grudge against him, but he didn't have the patience or magnanimity to coax He Yu any longer. His tone was cold as he responded, "Right." He Yu smiled. "There's a cave up ahead. After you." While He Yu and Xie Qingcheng were looking for a place to hide from the rain on the island, He Yu Sr. was still cautiously taking care of things on his end. He continued to guard the dock entrance and prevent any other participants in the campus-wide event from approaching. The club member pondered a bit. Everyone probably already had their share of fun, and it was unlikely that anyone had absolutely nothing better to do than come all the way to Neverland Island for a stamp, so he allowed himself to relax a bit. Ah yeah, this rain is really too heavy. He sat ruefully on the duck boat, gazing stupidly toward the island in the hopes of catching a glimpse of something, but the island was too far away. Earlier, he could only vaguely make out He Yu and someone with a rather tall and slender figure. This beautiful lady looked like she was pushing 180 centimeters. Maybe she was wearing high heels? He was nearsighted and couldn't see them too clearly, so he couldn't say for sure. But it sure seemed young Master He had unique tastes to like tall girls, especially one this tall. Ah, the lives of the bourgeoisie truly were something to be envied. A feeling of temptation rose in his heart as the thought crossed his mind. He really wanted to know how the two people on the island were getting along under the downpour right now. The two of them hadn't brought an umbrella, and the only shelter on Neverland Island was a cave. It was a blind spot in the school's campus surveillance system, and students rarely went there, though the club member had heard that some couples liked to go to the cave in the middle of the night for an outdoor tryst. He reckoned that He Yu, with his looks and family background, and after putting so much effort into pursuing that 180-centimeter beauty, must have succeeded in his mission by now. Should he send that member of the bourgeoisie a text and remind him to use protection? At this thought, he pulled out his phone. Going all the way on the night of a declaration of love. That would only be fitting for someone living life in the fast lane, wouldn't it? So he composed his message. He planned to send it to He Yu's unblocked phone in order to curry some more favor with that member of the bourgeoisie. He Laoban. There's a first aid kit inside the cave on the island. It has boxes of condoms in the second compartment. If you need them, you can check inside the kit. And remember to send me a red packet afterward. And a red packet is a function for sending money via WeChat. That's the end of the chapter. I believe I'm reading... Yep, I'm reading one more chapter today. Chapter 19, which is on page 251. We finally stopped arguing. The senior club member had just finished writing out and sending his message when someone's voice suddenly came from behind him. Little student. Lost in his dirty thoughts, the sleazy club member was easily startled and nearly fell sideways right into the water. The speaker was very nimble and immediately steadied the boat. He smiled and asked, "Little student, did I scare you?" "Ah, no, not at all." The club member looked up to see a man with scraggly facial hair who was at least 30 or 40 years old. He looked ridiculously unkempt in his white tank top and flip-flops, but there was a bright gleam in his eyes. Who knew what business he had here? Flip-Flop smiled at him as he asked, "Are you using that boat?" "Ah, the boat?" The club member thought fast, blurting out, "The boat's broken." "It's broken?" "Yep, there's a leak at the bottom. It's unusable and can only be docked in the shallow area." Flip-Flops hummed thoughtfully. "What a coincidence. The rope bridge leading to this island also seems to have broken." Sure has. The club member spoke with righteous conviction. I chopped... He coughed. Someone must have chopped it down. Who are you? Flip-Flops grinned, baring his teeth. I'm the school's electrical maintenance worker. As a matter of fact, I got a notice to come to the island to take a look. See, I've even brought my toolbox. The senior club member felt guilty as soon as he heard that the man was a worker for the school. He cleared his throat a few times, glancing left and right before inching closer and saying, Daga, I'll be honest with you. There's a Nouveau Riche student declaring his love on the island today. He's paid to have the whole place to himself. Think about it. Wouldn't getting in their way be a dick move? Of course it would. Flip-Flops understood immediately. His eyes shone as he likewise responded very foolishly. Ah, reserving the island to declare one's love. So romantic. You youngsters sure know how to have fun. That's not it. The club member slapped his thigh and raised his other hand to make a money gesture by rubbing his index and middle fingers with his thumb. The main thing is, he's rich. Flip-Flops beamed. He was surprisingly understanding. All right then. When will this boat of yours be usable? Probably after midnight. I'm mostly worried that the little couple won't be able to hold themselves back after he tells her how he feels. You know, tasting the forbidden fruit for the first time and being unable to stop. It's possible that it won't be until a bit later, even. He began to gossip as well when he saw how amiable this uncle was. Men. When they got together and talked about these types of things, there would inevitably be a depraved glint in their eyes. The club member lewdly implored the older man, Uncle, why don't you come back tomorrow morning? They'll definitely be gone by then. One of them is a shueba. There's no way he would skip class. A gregarious laugh burst up from Flip-Flop's belly. Fucking hell, not even a beautiful lady can keep a shueba from going to class. Well, of course. Otherwise, how can they be a shueba? The uncle chatted with the club member for a little longer before leaving with his toolbox. After arriving at a deserted location, he came to a stop, lit a cigarette, and dug a cell phone out of his toolbox. It was the oldest model of brick phone, a product that had almost gone extinct from the market. Hello, Captain Jung. Maybe push the deadline back a few more hours. I won't be able to get onto the island tonight. Problem? There is no problem. It's just that 2 students have reserved the island for a bit of romance. Yes, I know. I'll go early tomorrow morning. He flicked away some cigarette ash and sighed in exasperation. Honestly, isn't this spy of ours a little too cautious? Won't even send texts. Every time there's intelligence to be reported, it needs to be fucking written in the student guest book. And what's with that excuse of this won't invite suspicion? Ah, screw it. I'm going back to the station. You know, I came here to pick up the intelligence report, only to end up being force-fed PDA by bratty children instead. This police officer job of mine sure ain't easy. Flip-Flops left in a whirl of disgruntled mumbling. Guys, what is happening? What is going on? The cave on Neverland Island wasn't particularly large, and it was very dark inside. If not for the pouring rain, Xie Qingcheng felt that no one would ever bother to come in here. However, it was only when he crouched down like a cat and entered the cave that he realized he was wrong. By the dim light of his phone, he could see some outdoor recreational gear strewn about the inside of the man-made cave. Hurricane lamps, waterproof canvas, Oxford cloth folding chairs, wolf eyes flashlights, and even a little camping stove. A secret utopia. What? Xie Qingcheng turned around. He Yu shone his phone flashlight over one of the cave walls. That's what this says. Only then did Xie Qingcheng discover the masterpieces written on the damp walls of the cave, left behind from the ancient past for successive generations of intrepid explorers. They were all the graffitied scribblings of students who had discovered the secret place by mistake. The biggest words were the ones that said, Secret Utopia. Xie Qingcheng wasn't interested in these scribbles. After glancing at it briefly, he sat down at the entrance of the cave to watch the rain fall. But He Yu was a student of writing and directing, and was more than willing to read all the words that appeared before him with care. Buddha saved the people by bringing them to the shores of enlightenment. Yet why does he not ferry me out from the sea of academia? Zhou Xiansheng is the love of my life, but how can it be that when we met, he had already become the husband of another? I long for him, yet I cannot have him, and I become mad, so unspeakably mad, as the only thing that remains for me is endless waiting. He Yu lifted his phone, casting light on the walls as he read the words out loud, and shook his head. So poetic, so wretched. Then he illuminated the other side. And there is some art. Just chilling in the cave. Reading the cave graffiti. Now, that side was something else, filled with all kinds of content. He read, "May advanced mathematics get the hell out of the curriculum soon. Graduating soon. I hope I can become a famous director. Jiayo. And sheltering here for rain, we..." He Yu's voice trailed off, and he stopped reading. This only piqued Xie Qingcheng's curiosity. We what? Nothing. Xie Qingcheng didn't believe him, so he turned to look and was immediately left speechless. "And sheltering here for rain, we fell in love. Thanks be to the heavens for bestowing us with this fateful opportunity." These two illicit lovers had even left their names underneath, encircled in a massive heart. Given this situation, awkwardness was inevitable. No wonder He Yu didn't finish reading it. Xie Qingcheng spoke apathetically. "It's only been a few years since we last saw each other. Yet now you've developed dyslexia. No choice but to read everything out loud. Don't you think it's quite interesting? Who knows where these people are now? They might have entirely forgotten about what they've written here." He Yu reached up and stroked a line of mottled handwriting. Maybe some of them have already turned to dust, yet these words still remain. Xie Qingcheng said coldly, "Then why don't you leave your own written masterpiece for later generations to admire?" He'd only meant to mock He Yu, and was a bit surprised when He Yu picked up a thin shard of stone from the ground, chose a blank spot on the wall, and said thoughtfully, "You're right. What do you think I should write?" He Yu even shot a glance at Xie Qingcheng. There was a hint of irrepressible disdain in his eyes. "That's right. Here we take shelter from the rain and join in love, thanking the heavens for bestowing us with this fateful opportunity. How many quintessential classic love stories started like this? The white snake smiling as she asked to borrow an umbrella from Shu Hanlin in the boat. While, wow, I do not know how to say this Italian name. While